Let's kick off then, guys. So can you see a screen? You should get a screen share up at this point. Yeah, cool. Just before we start in prayer, just wanted to kind of set the scene a little bit. It's been an awful long time since we were all in the same physical space, but it's really nice to kind of get everyone in a virtual space again. So we don't quite know how this is going to go, but we're going to give it a go. Not only has it been a while, but obviously the world has changed since we last met up. And I'm sure when you started thinking about starting a business, you didn't think that this would happen. But I just wanted to say, as I said on my video today, is this is, in a lot of ways, just relax. I find that with Zoom meetings, you have to kind of take on a certain sort of Zen aesthetic and just kind of let the moment come upon you and find the Christ within it. So let's just relax. And then that thing about, I love the verse in the Bible where it says that Jesus set his face towards Jerusalem. And I think what we're trying to do with our businesses is be aware that God, we have a very strong understanding that God is calling us into something. And this session, I hope will be part of that route, a good part of your journey. So just in your own mind, set your face towards the destiny that God is calling you into. And this is definitely part of it. So without any further ado, would someone like to open up in prayer? I'll pick on someone.
Ooh, I'll do it.
Go on, Jasmine.
Father God, thank you so much for meeting with us tonight. Thank you for opening the doors to what you want us to do. Father God, we come ready, we come willing, we come surrendering our thoughts, our desires, and our plans into your hands today. Change our minds, shape our vision, move our focus, and have your way as we give you room tonight. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Fantastic. Thank you, Jasmine. Right, here we go. Go back to that. So, you've heard something's going on in the world, and it's COVID, and it's really difficult to kind of get our heads around this. But I wanted to ask if anyone had taken any time to kind of speak to God about what he might be saying to them about their business during this time.
I'm happy to say something on it.
Go on then. Thanks, Karen.
So there's a phrase that I heard of a guy who's called Mark Batterson, and pastor of a church in Washington in the US. And he said, a change of pace plus a change of place equals a change of perspective. And as I've been thinking about that over the last few days and weeks, as we change our pace of life, and everybody's pace faster because we've got so many other things to do, or whether it's slower and we're in isolation on our own, that change of place and change of pace equals a change of perspective. And for me, my business, I've just had a change of perspective on it. Initially, when we first started, and even probably prior to the shutdown, I think I can be honest in saying I questioned whether it was something that I should be pursuing at this time, and whether my focus should be solely on church and what I'm doing within Freedom. And then as I've been journeying, and even particularly this morning, I really sense God not only confirm that that is the business is what he wants me to do, but bring a word, very clear word about even a change of not the vision necessarily, but the vision statement and the type of people that I've got to reach. So yeah, so for me, it's been a battle around doubting whether this business is going to go anywhere, to a place now where I actually feel more confident and more excited about it than ever.
That is amazing. That is really, really amazing. Yeah, and
I think it was also on the back of your challenge, Alex, in our last coaching session. Alex gave me a gentle kick up the backside, which was, at the time I was like, but that gentle kick up the backside got me going in the right direction. So
that's really cool. Thank you, Karen. And I think it's really important to hear what God is saying during this time. Has anyone else got anything that they feel that they've got from God during this time, specifically about their business?
Yeah, definitely. I think at the start it was very much like not quite panic and fear, but like, oh my goodness, what does that mean for me, and how am I going to go through it? And then, you know, God really kind of made it very clear that I had everything that I needed to get through. And one of the things that I always ask myself is, what do I have in my hands and what can I do with it? Rather than thinking of what I don't have, thinking about what I do have. And it just changed my whole perspective to, you know, what am I going to do to make, you know, to get through, to make this as productive as possible. And I felt a real peace about it. I just know that God has been in it. I've been able to focus on looking at my business in a different way. But also I've slowed down in lots of areas, and that has been incredible because it's allowed me to have time to have those conversations with God about, okay, God, what is it? What am I doing? What is this all about? You know, what exactly have you got for me? What do you want, you know, for me in like the next year, the next 5 years? And really starting to seek God, just running along and doing things, just really seeking him. And it's really blown me away because, you know, what I've got back out of that is even more vision, even bigger dreams, but with a confidence of knowing that, you know, God is going to be with me all the way.
Brilliant. I love that. I love that. So I think it's really important. And I'd ask people to share online on Momentum just what they're getting out from God. Because I know that when we did it with the global leadership team for Momentum, it was really interesting. Chris had asked for prayer requests, and we got all these prayer requests through, you know, and it's serious times, but it was all based on need. But the words that people got from God were about strength, were about hope. And it was just very clear in my mind that what God was saying was very different to what people were experiencing. And that goes straight back to Gary's words that, yes, we need to be aware of the weather, but let's focus on the forecast, because that's what we need. The weather will change. And we need to know, and it's the forecast that we're interested in, not just the storm that we're in at the moment. So in terms, and I think if I'm getting kind of anything, and there is a lot going on, it is that classic thing. It's not what happens to us, it's what we do with what happens to us that defines us. Because we can't control what happens to us, but we can absolutely define what we do with what happens to us. And I really do believe that what God wants for us coming through COVID is to grow stronger. And that, you know, just listening to Karen, listening to Ray, and I'm sure if I went around every one of you, you know, that will be God's vision, that this isn't, you know, the world's not about to end. This is an opportunity. The fields are ripe. It's just having that view. But I think at the same time, everything has just changed. And therefore, we've got to be aware that the world's not going to go back to normal. We will go through this and there will be a new normal. And the things that we learn during this period, the people that can respond to those best will be ahead of the curve in terms of going out. And also that many businesses have formed in times like this, because this is the only time where people tend to have time to think. the rest of life is just so busy. So this is a time of vision, and I think it's a time of planning, and I think it's a time of opportunity. And also for people, they're very, very busy. So it's an interesting time. Okay, what we wanted to do was just run through the actions from the last meeting. Now, I just wanted to say something about this. The actions that we're setting is not things that we're doing because we don't think you've got enough to do with your life. The actions that we're setting are looking to put into place the key foundations of what we feel that your business need. So it's not something that you need to do on top of everything else you need to do. They are the things that you need in order to take your business forward. Just to kind of give you some encouragement that it's worth your while doing these things. And I think for me, one of the first words I had during when COVID started was about foundations. And foundations for buildings aren't there for when the sun is out. They're there for when the earthquakes come and for when the floods come. And the things that we're looking to put in place in your businesses at the moment by the actions we're asking you to do are foundational. And certainly one of the things we're going to talk about today is cash flow. And the first, I can probably guarantee that more cash flows have been pulled for more businesses over the last 4 weeks than any other single document. But the ability of a cash flow forecast to be able to, for you to be able to plan and strategize is just so strong. So one of the things we're working on today will be going through a cash flow, because if you're running a business, this is one of the key documents that you'll need to kind of get your handle on. But when you do that, it's an incredibly powerful thing. And certainly in terms of in terms of the communion's cash flow, I'm certainly looking at it every week, if not most days within every week. It's just always a reference point. So it's worth, if I can encourage you to invest in the actions that we're asking you to do, because they will hold, going forward, they will become strong foundations and they will allow your business to weather storms going forward. So that's just a sort of pre-cue. What we also want to do is kind of celebrate a few things from people. So this is an opportunity for a few people to talk about what they've done over the last month and for us to hear it. Paul, you carry on this one.
Yeah. So when we met at the Forge in March, we talked about company structure. And I know from talking to Alex through the coaching sessions, I think pretty much everyone's chosen a company structure. Is there anyone that hasn't or is still not sure or got questions? We'll take that as a positive, that everyone's got a company structure. Over to you, Alex.
Great. Then the next thing was about vision. So, this is, after figuring out how you're going to trade, I think this is the absolute key thing within your business. And I know when we were speaking with Ray and Elwyn last week, one of the first things that Ray said was, I'm straight back to my vision. And then we just heard that from Karen as well. And your vision is something that is absolutely fundamental to your understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. Does anyone want to say about how they found this action? Have they found anything about it? They want to share something?
I'll have a go. I re-looked at vision after the podcast, and it was really powerful. And through it, through re-looking at vision, I re-looked at business name. I re-looked at every part of what I was doing. And I realized, in essence, that the vision didn't match up with the company name, business name. It just didn't line up with what I was doing. And if God had called me to have a particular vision, then actually everything needed to feed from the vision. Because the vision doesn't change. The mission statement can change. The mission statement will change as society changes, as businesses, everything changes. But the vision is more than a business. It is you. It is why you're doing what you're doing, and everything else feeds from it. So I just totally re-looked at the vision, at what God was calling me to do through it, because every other vision statement I had before was a mission statement. And so I couldn't pinpoint what I was doing. And as God downloaded the vision into me, it started to reveal to me more how every other aspect of my life was also coming from that same vision statement. So I scrapped one business name, found one that actually worked, and actually I'm starting to own it and build what I'm doing around the vision rather than around what I'm doing, about what God is actually calling me to be rather than what I'm doing.
That sounds fantastic,
Good.
Jasmine. What's your vision? Can you say?
It's inspiring people to grow their own faith by bringing the word to life.
Wow.
Good.
Brilliant. I know we're short. That was absolutely fantastic. So you found it useful exercise, Jasmine? Do you feel like it's been a useful and it's been a strengthening exercise?
Oh, absolutely.
Brilliant. Kez, I heard that you've had you've been on an interesting journey the last few weeks.
Yes. So basically, for people who weren't there, the first coaching session, I completely broke down and started panicking really about a lot of things, because I was stuck in overthinking and inaction. So from the list of things that I felt I needed to do, what Paul did really well was just broke it down to 3 things. Again, to vision, mission, and what was the last one? I guess those 2 were really key. And what are the things I can do? So similar to what Ray said, what do you have in your hands? And so when I reworked that, then things just started flowing. Similar to Jasmine, I got a new business name, new vision statement and mission statement as well. And just by taking time with God, it's okay, what can I do well this week alone? What can I do well, with building social media? What can I do well in the next 3 blocks in my social media? I don't have to plan the whole thing, but that's what I had in my head previously. So just by pulling that back and doing that alone, has got me motivated, has inspired me again. It's just really a really interesting time, with COVID and everyone having to be at home. My life hadn't really changed since before COVID. It's I'm working from home anyway, but I guess because the rest of the world kind of stopped, I was wait, this is actually I don't feel like I'm racing against time, because time has stopped, it seems. But yeah, it's been that. It's been looking like that.
Kezia, when we met, you kind of read Philippians 2:3, and what I loved is you'd anchored your vision and into your mission really around that verse, and it was, the name was so beautiful, and the vision you have for what you want to provide is so amazing. And you talk about the very first session we had to when we talked about that was just such great progress, and really kind of believing in what God's telling you, the vision for you, I think has massively helped shape where you're going, and putting the foundations down for a strong business.
Yeah, thank you. I felt it was so key for me to, again, just take time with God and see what He wants to say. So that's when Philippians 2:3 came up, and the verse just talks about cherished unity and how putting others as above myself or ourselves that was what I would like to, when I hire people, that's the first thing I would love them to kind of carry with them as well. And that's like the plan behind the vision business is like, I want to love on you. I want you to feel like you are cherished. Just being me and bringing my Indonesian flair. And so that's why the company name became what it is.
And how do you pronounce your company name again?
I would love everybody to try. Sayang celebrations. Yeah, so sayang is like to dote on, to cherish, to love on, and to call somebody dear to you. So it's like, I want to bring that to my clients. I want my, if you're celebrating other people, you sayang, you come to us. And so we are different because we want to love on you. You're not just like another person. And also by providing like custom invites for you. I think the other thing as well that was helpful was to merge, I guess, my two businesses together, which was like the custom stuff that I did, the art stuff I did, and also events, because that's what sets me apart. And so to make that even stronger, a stronger selling point. Yeah.
Good.
Fantastic. Really great. I mean, it's just so great to see the progress, Kez, because it's been a tough journey for you, hasn't it? It really has. But to have that, and I think that's it says in the Bible, without vision, people perish. But now you've got a really strong vision. And as Yasmin said, a lot of the people's visions for their businesses are strongly aligned to the vision for their life. And that's where that kind of life force flows from and flows into. So I think it's beautiful, as Paul says, really beautiful name, beautiful vision. I wanted to bring in a voice here because there's a member of the Academy who can't always join us or rarely joins us. And that is this young lady.
Hey Momentum, I quickly wanted to share with you one of the big takeaways that I have had since starting Momentum, and that came from the Andy Stanley and Horst Schultz podcast on vision statements. Something that stood out to me was when Horst was talking about the training that they did with their staff at the Ritz and this principle of ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. I just thought it was such an easy to remember statement, something that I can imagine they use with like throughout and creates a standard. And so I was thinking about what would my version of that be for my nursery that I'm developing. Hush, hush, not everyone knows about it yet. But this nursery that would have the highest standard, that would be luxury, that would have a boutique kind of feel to it. And the phrase that we have coined is "if heaven had a nursery." And for me, that would be something that I'd want to train the staff on, is that in every area we ask ourselves, if heaven had a nursery, what would the atmosphere of this nursery be? If heaven had a nursery, what kind of care and provision do we have? If heaven had a nursery, what kind of products would we use? If heaven had a nursery, how would I expect the staff to treat the kids? And just having it through every single layer of the building, the development and the training of staff, and the vision of the nursery. And so I just quickly wanted to share that with you. Thank you so much to everyone involved in Momentum and all you're doing to develop us.
What I thought was really strong about Sian is that it had a question at the end. So the vision was a question: if heaven had a nursery. And what was quite, as she developed that, it became something that she could test. It's a vision that she can use to test everything. And as she said, that whoever's working at the nursery can also use the vision to kind of self-critique. Is this what we should be doing here? Does this have, if heaven had a nursery, is this food right? If heaven has a nursery, are these toilets right? And I just thought it was a brilliant piece of work. And I thought it also kind of picked up on the fact that what Horst Schultz was saying was a really great vision is good for the business, it's good for the people that use the business, and it's good for the whole world. And you can kind of see that in some of that, and it's just a really good test. Is, you know, are we pursuing personal visions here, or are we pursuing a God vision for our world? And I just thought that Shana just come so far on that one thing, so it was really good. I really enjoyed hearing it. Anyone really stuck with their vision?
Sorry, no, I'm not really stuck. It's just because I know what I wanted to say. It's just trying to coin it in such a way that other people understand what I'm trying to say as well. Like, that's kind of what I find difficult at the moment. But that's just more like a phrasing issue more than anything, I guess.
I mean, Ella, what I'd like to share with everyone, if it's okay, is the way you've structured what you want to say in your vision is really good, because it brings all of the good points out. And as you rightly say, now it's taking that, and you're really the only person that can do that, is to take, because you've already said what you want to put in your vision. Now it's taking that and making it a bit more succinct, so that people, so when you're in that situation where you share, when someone says to you, what do, you can share that in a quick to recover and easy to read vision statement. But you've got all the key ingredients, and it's really, really powerful.
Great. Sounds exciting. Cool. Okay, let's push on. Now, the next one was not so much the vision, but the mission. So ways that you were going to deliver that vision, and to try and figure out, okay, how are you going to deliver this vision that you've got? A little bit more, little harder. And I know with certain conversations, we've kind of looked at that in different ways. I think, was it Paul, you were chatting about that Jasmine had done a really good job on this, or was that are we talking about someone else?
No, I mean, Jasmine has been on a mission, full stop. Where's Jasmine? There she is. Sorry, you're over there on my screen. You know, again, if we to go back to the March session we had, and where you were, and you know, the last session we had, and boy, you know, you've achieved so much. The mission, you were actually doing the things that needed to be done to get to the next step, and the next step, and planning the step after that. And it's really, really good. Encouraging for you to come to that session actually with what you've done. It wasn't me asking, well, what have you done? Have you done the things you were coming with? I've done this and I've done that, and your mission was shaping up beautifully well. So I wanted to share that and celebrate how much you've achieved in that. What in if it's a small amount of time in reality, but you know, your mission statement, I think we agreed it just needs a couple of tweaks, but it's really strong. I mean, do you want to share it? Go for it.
So, as I say, the vision was inspiring people to grow their own faith by bringing the word to life. The mission is quality books and resources to encourage, inspire, and grow faith. Really nice,
really nice. So I just think that you know, you've got a tight vision and you've got a tight mission. But I think you can see that the vision is bigger than the mission, and the mission can change, and you've got a way of, and you know what you're going to pursue in order to get that out, which I think is great. Karen, we had a chat about this. It was an interesting conversation. Have you how do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting re-looking at the vision and the mission for me. And so I think and I want to have a chat with you next Monday, but I think this is where I'm going. Alex asked me to look at my vision in relation to my life vision. What is it that I do in life? What am I called to? And I came down to, and then I looked at the coaching business, and what I came to was Karen Cook Coaching. Karen Cook coaches women to give value, inspire vision, and declare victory. So it was value, vision, victory. And it was seeing women know their value, inspire them with vision, and declare that they are victors, not victims.
Wow.
And so that really came to me. That was such a God download. And that's not just for my business, that's in life, that's in church, that's in my relationship. So it was when Alex said, look bigger than just your business, because I couldn't separate the two. This is who I'm created to be. It was value, vision, victory. And I loved that. And then on the back of that, then it was Karen Cook is there for female Christian leaders globally to coach them through one-to-one individual coaching, through courses and group work. So I am going to be pulling together, and I've already started. I had 8 videos made professionally. Now I'm writing course content to go with these videos that actually I can now start coaching as well as continue on the individual. So the mission, Alex asked me to look at 3 key areas of what my mission in life, and the key areas that I'm specifically called to, that I'm 100% know that I'm called to, which is overarching, is number 1, preparing the bride for return. And what that means is serving the vision of Freedom Church as a leader. Secondly, coaching female Christian leaders globally. And that means giving value, vision, victory. And then also, I really felt the third one was being an example wife, mother, and grandmother.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, really brilliant. And having done some of that thinking, Karen, how do you feel about that vision and your mission in life?
I think what Alex was trying to tease out, I had separated, but that's church work and this is business. And Alex was trying to get me to see, no, what's your vision for life? What is it? Why are you here on earth? What are you called for? And Alex, as I began to realize, they actually are the same. What I do is I'm a kingdom person, and if that is within my business, it looks one way. And if that is within my church stuff and life, that's another way. What it did is it excited me so much, because I could see then, okay, well, there are aspects of my life and the time that I need to put to this, but actually the vision over my life is the same. So it was really freeing, I think, because I was trying to box it and it was never to be boxed.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, what I get from it, Karen, is I can feel a release and in some way a kind of focus, but also a release of energy that's come through that. Because I think as you said, what you were trying to compartmentalize stuff, and I think that your different roles are important because that's part of your mission, as it were. But the vision that God's given you flows through those things, and it's getting that flow, which is so powerful, and understanding that flow, that almost apostolic flow that is through you. And then, for me, it sounds like there's so much more clarity about what you're doing. And I think it's really important to write that. And to write, with all these visions, I need people to write them down, because it takes a lot of work to get. This is a lot of hard thinking that people are investing in it, and the last thing that you need is to forget it, because we all know that the worst thing about the easiest way to lose vision is just the day job, the whirlwind of what we're involved in. And so, you know, it's a freedom thing, Karen, I think, isn't it? Write the vision on the wall. Is that a freedom thing?
Yeah, write it down and then run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
And I think, Alex, the other thing was, he even gave me a different logo in it as well, around vision, value, victory. Go into it now, but there's really powerful about this logo that he downloaded, because I asked him for one scripture. I said, God, I want one scripture that tells me you're in this with me. And he gave me immediately, it was John 14:14, and it says, you may ask me for anything in my name, and I'm going to give to you. And I was like, okay, well, then I'm asking big. We go for it. And I've got so many things now I'm asking him for. That I'm so, and I just want to encourage you guys for that scripture. Is like, he said, ask me anything, and I'm going to give it to you in his name. So whatever it is that you're looking for, ask him, and he wants to give it to you.
Let me hear an amen to that. My word, that's good. Thank you, Karen. Thank you really for sharing that. It's really, 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 really good. Because I know some people are struggling with vision, but it's really, really worth pushing into vision, because it will drive you forward. It's the rudder to your boat. It's the motor. It needs to drive your life. It needs to get you out of bed every morning, because, you know, not every day is easy. There are times where, you know, we've all had probably very, very difficult weeks. And it's really, really important to figure out why we are doing what we're doing, because that's what we need to hold on to. And it takes a long time, but I think that just hearing what's been going on is just so valuable. Well done, everyone. I mean, this is about celebration, and I think, you know, there's just so much to celebrate in here. Now, the next thing I won't do the slide, about this idea of the neat size, and Mary, wanted to ask you, because I just thought you did such a fantastic job with your neats, and can you just sort of talk through what you got from that project?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Alex. So as many of you know, I don't have a business yet, so I was working with Alex on how that personally. And it was found that when I decided I would look at a few brands, but the main two were this skincare brand called The Mary. I won't go into what it is, but it's very popular at the moment. A lot of people are talking about it. I've personally bought it myself because there's such a fuss about it. And the other one was about was a Birchbox, which you get this monthly skincare beauty subscription, puts it in a beautiful box. It's like a gift. It's quite an exciting experience. And as I was going through the needs exercise, so categorized into, so I was asking friends and family, and I put some posts on Instagram and Facebook, like, why do you buy these products? Why? And I got a few really good responses, people from church, people from outside church as well, on why they were buying these products. And I managed to categorize these things into things like price, like packaging. Packaging was a huge one. Like, so many people were saying things like, oh, I just love the packaging. And it was almost the same sort of importance almost as the product. So, and as I was talking with Alex throughout my coaching section, I realized how important the emotional journey people have to go on with you with your business. So like so from the market research, and people were talking about, it was really convenient for me to get this product. I felt really comfortable buying it. I felt confident buying it. I felt motivated to self-care. I was really excited about this subscription because it was the self. I was excited opening it. You know, and there were things there like, oh, it was a high quality product, the price was good for me, and things like that. But it really highlighted to me how much my business in particular, but I think for all of us as well, how much our customers really need to engage emotionally with us on our product. And so for me, once sort of Alex and I identified that with me in my coaching, it then helped me to create a much more of a shaper on my business, and actually how I wanted my mood board to look, and actually it really helped shape the vision. And it's through the emotion of thinking how I want people to feel and what I want them to experience, fueled things like it helped navigate what my vision should be rather than what I thought it was, and actually help navigate, oh, actually this is the type of customer I want to engage with. So that was what the NEATS exercise is really good for me about. And I'd perhaps encourage all of you to think about actually the feedback that you've got from your customers. How you make them feel is really important for brand engagement. And it's for me the feedback that I got from people, it was like up there with the experience of the product. So I think that was probably everything.
That was brilliant. I think what was just absolutely brilliant about our conversation, Mary, was what I got from it was that you'd got to the point where before it you were interested in, basically a tub of cosmetics, and that was your product. But through the NEATS exercise, what you'd found out was that, the product was that, but just as much it was the way that it made people feel. And in a world of women who, I'm sure Karen could talk into this for days, but, for the way where cosmetics are generally sold by, beauty or sex or any of these things, it was like, no, the how this product is going to make these women feel is the product. And then also the messaging, like the marketing, the annual marketing that goes with that, then reinforces, this is how you should feel. This is what this product will help make you feel. And then also the packaging and the marketing to the packaging and what's in the packaging. And as we open the product, this is a way that you are going to inspire women and deliver a gift to women in order to make them feel like God wants them to feel. And going around all of these different areas, suddenly the power of your product just grew exponentially in my mind. I was like, that is an amazing product. Yes, there's some stuff in a container that someone will put on their face, but as they're putting it on their face in the morning, they're realizing, I buy this product because it makes me feel powerful, or because it makes me feel that I'm doing whatever it is. And then that gets reinforced through the memes, and gets reinforced as the package arrives and the anticipation. I mean, it just like was such a, I was like, sign me up. This is so powerful.
Thanks, Alex.
Alex wants to buy the face cream. Come on, Alex.
Well, I'm sure that I don't know. I'm sure that not all creams are bought by women. A lot of them are bought by husbands who want to buy birthday and Christmas and Valentine's presents for their nearest and dearest.
Yeah, and the men's market has grown now as well. Massively.
Yeah. Someone in our house was throwing out some Clinique. I was like, I'll have that. It's out of date. It's all right. It's fine. That's brilliant. Anyone else? I know that the people I spoke to had found the NEATS thing quite helpful and quite inspiring. I mean, I think that for me, NEATS is about product. The reason that we do this exercise is to figure out what other people, ideally the people who are buying your product, tell you what your product is. So you may not know what your product is, and your product is any damn reason why people part with hard cash in order to buy it. And what we don't want to do is compete on price, because there's only one place for that in the market. And if you're interested in competing on price, then you just have to cut everything, cut marketing, cut training, cut everything, customer experience, because you just got to cut it all. But what everyone will be involved in is adding value. So knowing why people value your product is absolutely key. And there's a really easy way to find out why people value your product, is just to ask them. And that's what this exercise is about. Cool. Okay, goals. Now, what we try to sort of talk about with goals is, for the people that have been involved in the coaching exercise, this is kind of where we really kind of break the goals down in terms of that classic freedom saying of, you know, what's your next step on that. But I think what's kind of a good example of a goal is so I heard someone talking about this. So basically, what we don't want to do when we ask setting up a goal is ask, you know, what we're always trying to do is be forward looking. So it's not about, we're not trying to stay in the past, we're trying to stay in the future. So a question would be, how do we get, not why isn't this product with their customer, but how do we get this product to their customer? An even better question than that would be, how do we get to this customer this product in the next 15 minutes? And an even better example of the question on that would be, what are the first 3 things that we need to do to get to this product to this customer in the next 15 minutes? And I just thought that was a really interesting way of phrasing something, that in order for a goal to be well defined, let's wrap a time frame around it, and let's add some detail of the first few steps into it, and then suddenly we've got some traction into that. And effectively, that's what turns dreams into actions, is that we have a dream. If we can put a time frame to it, we turn it into a goal. And if we can add some next steps to it, we turn those things into actions. And that's how things get done. So in terms of, we've got everyone's who came on the program had identified their goals. And what I'd like people to start talking about is timeframes and next steps. So detail to those goals. And, as part of our coaching sessions, we'll be doing that anyway. But I just thought it's a really nice way. Let's not stay in the past. Let's always ask a forward-looking question. Let's put a time frame around. Let's always put a time frame around. Always put a bit of detail to the next step. Hopefully, everyone's kind of identified goals and working with their coach in order to pursue those things. That's what we want. Right. The next thing was we asked you to have a look at cash flow. Now, we're not going to talk too much about that now, because we're going to come back after a break. And that's what we're going to spend the next part of this session talking about, because as we said last time, cash flow is the oxygen. Cash is the oxygen to your business. And certainly times like this, the podcast I've been looking at is, we're straight back to cash is king. During the 2008 crisis, Ford did not need a bailout from the US government, because they had secured revenue from the banks for like 420 billion pound or whatever it was. So they had access to cash. And effectively, that's not easy to achieve. We're all in a growing business, we're always going to be short of cash. And this exercise is trying to say, okay, if I'm always going to be short of this resource, how do I plan for that? So that's what we'll be looking at after the break, which kind of brings us to our final action that we gave to everyone, which was doing some reading. Now, like everything, like all the actions that we give people, we're not giving it to people because we don't think you've got enough to do in your life. Reading is a discipline. And if you speak to any business leader, they will be voracious readers. A lot of them will be reading a book a week, if not 2 books a week. It's that powerful. So how have people got on with the reading? And I'd like to have people say what one thing that they've learned from the book if they've managed to read it. So Becky, I haven't heard from you yet. Why don't you start us off?
Done no reading. I listen to the podcasts.
Okay.
But I haven't. I was going to get it on an audio thing, and to be honest, until you said, I'd completely forgot. So it's something that I need to do.
Okay. Kez, did you manage to read or listen to the book?
So I still have not finished reading the book, but just from the beginning chapters, how he identified the technician, I can't even remember. Yeah, but like how it doesn't work because you're trying to be all those 3 things. And I think that was what I was struggling with most. It's like I'm wearing so many hats at the same time. Have I read the resolve? No, I'm not at the end of the book, so I'm not really sure what happens after that. But I thought it was a great starting point for what he said.
Cool, that's cool. So anyone else tell me what the 3 roles that they were talking about in that book?
The technician, that person who does everything.
Yeah. What are you, Jasmine? What do you tend towards?
Half manager, half technician. I like doing.
You like doing?
But I'm a planner.
Yeah, cool. And what's the
entrepreneur? Is it the entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur. Yeah. So typically, when you start a business, a lot of people start it from the technician's point of view. They can do something, and the trouble is that businesses won't fail because of what you can do; they will fail because of what you can't do. And what the book was trying to explain is that you've got to build these key skills. You've got to be entrepreneurial. You've got to be able to see the opportunities. You've got to be able to sort of market that. You've got to be able to manage. You start by managing yourself and managing your own task list, and you've got to be able to do. And if you don't have, those 3 people in your business, then you haven't got a business. You may be good at what you do, but that won't make a good business. And in the beginning, you have to wear all of those hats. But as you get more, as the business grows, you can start to identify who you may want to work with and their strengths in that. Brilliant. Thank you, Kez. Ella, do you manage to do any reading?
I think I came about halfway.
That's good. The first half of the book is definitely better than the second half. I'll give you that.
Great. Yeah, so I'm definitely more of an entrepreneur. As in, I got lots of ideas, and then instead of sitting down and actually working out the ideas, so I've got a plan and a structure, I just gather more ideas, and then just nothing happens. So that definitely challenged me as well. It's like, oh, great, I need to get more. Like, that's interesting because I'm an engineer as well. So you would think I'm quite systematic, but I'm really not. So that was just, yeah.
Can I just say, Ella, your thought process is very systematic.
My thought process is as soon as I actually take the time to sit down, but it's not something I would like naturally do. Like, I love going online and like getting new ideas of things I could do and like grow the list of services and different things. But yeah, and then if I have to make a cash flow, then I'm like, ugh. This is not what I want to do right now. I can hire someone to do that bit. But obviously I'm not there yet. So yeah.
I think for me it was interesting kind of when I read this, this was one of the first business books I read though, Ella, and just this knowledge kind of helped free me because otherwise you just think you have, if you're not careful, you just think you have to work harder and harder and harder at what you're doing, and actually that's not the case. What you need to do is make sure you've got the bases covered. As someone said to me, I don't pay you to do the work, I pay you to get it done. And the question is all the work getting done, not are you doing all the work? So just make sure that you've got these bases. I want to take a break in a couple of minutes, but for Mary or Emma or Chanel or Karen or Simon, anything they want to pull out from the book, a key learning, something that hit you?
No, I still have way too much to read. I'm in it, but I'm listening to it, and I also get really distracted. This is really a discipline that I need to work on, because I'm not that business owner that reads. I'm also trying to read the hurry book, Karen, and I'm just not getting there. I've got too many books that I've started that I haven't finished.
It is difficult, Chanel, and definitely at the moment difficult for you yourself. I think that the listening thing is useful, if you can kind of just cover it with listening. I mean, I think Sean said something to Academy the other day, which is, there's an awful lot being pushed out there at the moment. Everyone's pushing more content out, and some people are at home, not able to do that much, but a lot of people, are just more busy than they ever been. So I think, we're talking a little bit about focus today. Is just pick one, pick one and work your way through that, and then put a big tick in a list. I think that you feel. Has anyone found that when they write a list and they then strike one thing off of it, that they get a sudden boost of energy because you've done something? And I think it's that thing about books is, if you've got a whole load of books that you're meant to be reading, just say, I'm not reading any of those ones at the moment. I'm reading this one book, and read that one, strike it off your list, because that will give you energy. But if you've got all the things hanging around on your list, all the things that you haven't done sap energy from you. It's really important to make sure your to-do list is stuff that you can actually do, not a list that's sapping energy from you. So pick one and go for it, Chanel. Any one last thing? I will take a break.
Can I come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've read the book, thankfully.
I can't help it.
It was very interesting to read my journey in some ways, and I would say that I probably can sit in the 3 different areas to some capacity without too much difficulty. Thinking back, my problem always was splitting my time between the different areas, and I would find I would major on one at the expense of another, which was quite interesting. But also, because I couldn't cope back in the early days with those 3 sections, I would employ somebody to take on one of the roles. But because I was so involved in the early days, was in the technician role, and I employed somebody else to do something else that I liked, the sales or that sort of thing, was being unable to manage what they were doing. So they basically, and I saw it in the book as well, that person went off and just did their own thing. Yeah, which is a real danger, because she was too involved in one area and not in another. And that is the challenge of it, really, is spreading yourself through the roles, I find. But the thing I'm taking away from the book now is the system, which comes very much in the second half of the book. The need, even at this stage, to put systems in place so you've got it documented how the business actually works. Yeah, brilliant. Particularly, I think that's going to be important for me now in the next few years, because I want to come to a point where I want to sell my business. I'm just wishing I'd done it as I developed it, rather than having to do it as a big project now, really.
Thank you, Owen. That was really fantastic. Good. Yeah, I know. I mean, when you come to sell a business, what you're really selling is like the order book, the team, and that's what, because that's where the values are. What you're trying not to sell is yourself, because you're the one trying to lead. So, I mean, I reread the book, listened to the book actually. I read it the first time, listened to it months ago before I started the course. I think it's still one of the best business books out there. So I really would encourage people, if they can't do anything else, to listen to the book. It's got some great learnings. It covers the ground, and you can come back to that book again and again and again and still learn something. So we're going to be moving on to another book this time, but if you get it, and it's a smaller book, you'll be pleased to know. But if you get a chance, I think that book is, it's, what is it, 10 quid. Honestly, there are hundreds of thousands of pounds waiting for you in that book, compared to the purchase price. Right, we're a little bit over time. I want people just to take 5 minutes. I won't close the session down, but get up, walk around, grab that beer or that G&T, and come back from then.
We're all back? Yeah, good. We're all back. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little about time management. Now, we've all got time. I guess, like me, I don't always manage it right, and I get to I don't know how many of you get to the end of the day and go, what have I achieved today? Where's my time gone? I do still. There's days where I have days like that where I'm not sure my time's gone. But what I'm going to talk through is some very good principles of how, and understanding kind of how to fit things better in your day, prioritize the urgent, not important. So can everyone see the two with rocks and stones in? Can anyone not see it? Okay. So now, when Alex and I first discussed this, he would have liked me to have done this live. I decided that it'd be wiser to use a pre-recorded video. So that's what I'm going to show you. So just to kind of set the scene, you've got two jars. The one on the left has got sand in the bottom with pebbles and stones at the top. And the other one is a better mix. And basically the principle is the bigger stones, the rocks, are the things that you must do in that day. The stones are the smaller things that could move around in the day. And the sand are those things like watching social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, the things that kind of just are very fluid. Now you can see on the left, the jar has been stacked the wrong way, and the jar on the right has been stacked to make it much more efficient use of time. And the next video is about 3 minutes. It's so it's kind of around the Stephen Covey, if anyone's read the book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I'm going to now, if technology plays, going to swap over to a short video. So bear with me. Getting distracted. Okay, can everyone see the video on screen? Okay, great.
Yeah.
By little things in life is easy. By starting your day with trivial activities, you will not have the time for the things that actually matter. Whether you are a businessman, mother of 4, or a professional, anyone can lose focus of the things that are important in life and fill precious time with meaningless things. In the 80s, Stephen Covey taught the importance of prioritizing the important things in life, which will enable you to do more than you ever thought was possible. His concepts still apply to life today. Even if you think you know all of this already, the visualization metaphor really hits home. This demonstration from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People will change how you prioritize. If you lack focus and want to do more important things in your day, you have to check out this life-changing video.
Okay, the video you're about to watch has no commentary. it's purely video with a bit of text explaining what's going on. But just the what I learned from this, I read this book kind of where are we now, 2020, so 12 years ago. I read this book 12 years ago, and it changed, or it started a change in the way I prioritized what I did, and it made a massive difference to both my professional but also personal. And I'll come on to some of the things that I still use now based on what I learned from that book. So I'll start playing the video now. Did everyone get the concept? Did it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So by kind of taking your kind of important things, the things that you need to do and prioritize, and put those in your diary first, then put the smaller kind of tasks around that, the things that maybe could be moved if you needed. It starts to make the day far more efficient. I know sometimes for me, I'll kind of have a plan in the morning, and I'll start by I'll get a ping from LinkedIn, and before you know it, that ping to LinkedIn to read a message leads to other messages, and that's kind of how your time gets sapped up. And I'm sure we can all kind of sit there and go, yep, been there, done that, and get to the end of the day and go, that wasn't a great use of my time. So when the slides come out, that link will be available. If you want to see it separately, we can send it out separately. Okay, so that's a kind of very useful way of explaining time management. The other thing with time management is how to prioritize, and this is the Eisenhower box. Actually, I mean, I was aware of this because Stephen Covey mentioned in his book. I didn't realise until recently it's called the Eisenhower box. I think, Alex, you pointed that out, didn't you?
I only pointed it out because I Googled it for this presentation.
Yeah. So how, if you think about how you prioritise your time, would it look like the grid on screen? And I think, you know, we all, you know, one of the things I've got in the habit of saying at the end of anything I do, the end of a day or a meeting, is, was that a good use of my time? What could I have done differently or better, knowing what I know? And I think, because that allows me to focus, or allows us to focus on continuing improving. And we talked about looking forward all the time. And by asking yourself kind of questions like that, allows you to come back to this and go, well, you know, if we look at one, the urgent stuff, and then link that to what we looked at in terms of how we manage time, those are things we end up filling our day with, the urgent commitments, the urgent email that needs, the urgent meeting, or the critical issue that needs dealing with. But if we look at the important, not urgent, and you'll see it's green, because that's where we need to focus more on. Because if we plan ahead, we get less of one. And I'll show you some examples of actually my diary. But what I try and do, and I'm sure some of you already do this, is plan 1, 2, 3 weeks. Some of my things are planned further because they're regular things that need to happen. So by planning, I'm planning, if something changes, it changes. But at least I've got something to move around and not an empty space in my diary. And then we've got the things not important, urgent. I mean, we all get them. Emails come in, social media posts, all ping on your phone. And if you're like me, you've got a laptop, a phone, an iPad, and I get 3 reminders for something. So I can't forget them. And you get distracted. And then if you're in the middle of an important job, that takes your focus off that. So your time is wasted. So we kind of need to cut those short, or delegate them, reject them, do something with it. And then we've got over here the distractions. And I mentioned about LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. They can be distractions if we're doing it at a time where we need to be focusing on either the important, non urgent in the second quadrant, or having to deal with something that's come up urgently, because they always will. So I think, you know, what I've learned is taking the how to manage your time, how to fit the jar, my day, how to get the best out of it, how to get the most productivity, the most value, not just for me, but also for the clients that I'm serving. And therefore, to do that, I have to learn to plan and prioritize. And that's something that, you know, it's something you're not, I mean, some people are better organized, but it's always something that we need to be working on to continue to improve. Any questions so far? Either no one can hear me, or I'll take the silence as a no. Cool. So we've kind of looked at a methodology for time management and how to look at prioritizing based on proven exercises. But then we kind of look at tasks. So I use my diary extensively. That's something that I didn't used to do. I used to remember, keep lots in my head. But then I wondered why I wasn't sleeping at night or be able to get to sleep, because I realized I was keeping a lot in my head. And someone gave me some advice, is write down to get out of your head. I evolved that into using my diary in a more efficient way. So from reading Stephen Covey's book and put into practice some of his examples of, I guess, how to try and be more effective, I kind of have evolved my calendar into the default diary. So what are the things that you do Oh, sorry, got distracted. See, there you are, I got distracted. Something popped up. Now, I would say I planned that, but you see how easy it is just to kind of go, hang on a second, I'm just going to look at what's just popped up. And suddenly what you were doing has been totally sideswiped. That was planned, that was. So you can see how here, you've got in here, I got my default. So what do I do every day? What do I need to do every week? And plan it in your diary. So I know it's in there. I need to do it. It doesn't matter when, I just need to do it. To my daily, weekly, monthly activities. So I plan them in the diary. And my diary, if I've got something, I'll plan it for a whole month if it's a weekly or a daily task. And if it's a monthly task, it'll go on for 6 or 7 months and I'll review it. But it allows me to see and plan my time more efficiently by seeing what I've already got booked, so I don't get double booked. I have to be honest, there was a time when I had client meetings where I have to phone and apologize because I double booked myself, because I didn't plan effectively. And I'm sure we can all relate to the double bookings and the things that we missed because we didn't plan it properly or efficiently. So think about, for you, think about the things that you do, probably without thinking sometimes, but takes your time, the daily, the weekly, the monthly, and the annual tasks, when your insurance is due for renewal, when your phone contract is up for renewal. These are all things you know are going to happen, and therefore plan them in your diary so that you don't have to remember it. The system, the diary, will pop up and tell you this is due. And the only advice I give on top of that is allow a reminder to give you enough time to do something about it. So a reminder the day before your insurance is due for renewal is probably not helpful, although it's better than nothing at all. Okay, so that's the default diary. Think about the things that you do on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Then we get into a concept called batching. And this is where, if you do something, so one of the conversations I've had a lot of recently is about writing social media posts. And, you know, if you're going to post something weekly, I used to do this, I used to write it the night before marketing wanted it to post it. And then I do that every week, and it'd be inefficient use of my time, because you get your head in a certain mode for the writing of those articles. So I learned to actually do 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 weeks in advance, that I write in half a day or my whole day I put aside, and batch that process. So that was a more efficient use of my time, because my head was already in the zone for writing the posts. So I didn't have to keep starting, stopping, and getting myself back into the swing of things. So think about the things that you do, but if you spend a bit longer, you could probably do them together and therefore make a more efficient use of your time. I know from conversations that I think we all struggle to write social media posts in the first place, let alone writing several weeks worth. And that, I think, has been a key example over the last few weeks. Next, we have choose the right time. So when is the right time to do a task? Now, there are two schools on this. The first is we all work differently in terms of morning, when we are our most creative, or our evening or our afternoon. We're really good at doing something in particular, not so taxing. So I think the lesson that I've learned through my kind of career is actually I don't work effectively at certain times of day, and therefore don't plan something that requires you a lot of thought, a lot of creativity at the last time of night, when that's not your best time for it. Plan it and do it in the morning. So that's the first kind of school of thought. The second is procrastination. I think to different degrees, We all do it. I have been terrible at procrastination, and I must be honest, and I do slip back into it from time to time. When I've got a particularly horrible job I do not want to do, I will find all of the nicest things, all of the easiest things, and put those at the front of the day. And what do I get left with at the end of the day? The horrible job that I've still got to do. And I really don't want to face it any more than I did first thing in the morning. So the next kind of school of my thought is, don't procrastinate. Do the things that you don't want to do but need doing first, so that get them out of the way. We talked earlier about ticking off a task and celebrating and feeling good about it. If you've just got rid of that task that you didn't want to do, that it was difficult, you had to write an email maybe that was unpleasant to complain about something, or a job that was just difficult and needed a lot of thought, do it first, get out of the way, celebrate you've done it, and then nothing else is going to be as bad as that in a day, or shouldn't. And it brings us on to just eat that frog. And that's more on the frogs later, and it relates to the book we're going to read this next month. Okay, any questions about all of that lovely time management and planning stuff? All making. Now, I was going to get tempted to go and look at the flashing thing at the top of my screen again. Another example how easily we get distracted. Okay, moving on. So some of you may have heard of Peter Drucker, and he said, you can't manage what you can't measure. So it's about every business has time. Now, if you're in a business that your time is what you bill, so consultancy, I think a lot of people here, your time is money. You need to start thinking about where you spend it, how you spend it, and start measuring it. Because if you're not measuring where you spend time, so if you're project driven, you really should be monitoring your time, where you spend, how much time you spend on what project, doing what task. Now, the screenshot is actually of Alex's time management system. So every project he works on, he logs time. And you can see on the screen that it's got how much time. It looks like 15, minute intervals. Alex, do you measure?
So basically, why I love this thing is you've just got those little stopwatches. So as soon as you need to be working on another project, you can just start that timer rolling, and then it's recording it in the background. I used to keep timesheets, and then I used to have to work them out. This does it all for you. I think it's one of the most amazing bits of software that we use. And if you're running a team, like I'm running a team, it allows everyone to log their time against projects. And then you can allow them to, you can have different rates, different pay rates and all of that. So, for me, we bid on work, and then we have to deliver that work within that time or within that money, which they're basically the same thing. And this is how we measure how we do against the target that we set ourselves for.
Thank you, Alex. So, and we're not saying that you have to have something like Harvest. I use an Excel spreadsheet on whatever projects, as long as you're logging what time you're spending, because you want to be able to look at the end of a project or the end of a time you spend somewhere and actually see, has it been profitable? Has it been a good use of your time? Have you made money? Where are you spending it? So we need to kind of log it somewhere. Because you'll start thinking, is the time I spend profitable? Now, I had a concept when I run a bigger business, and someone would say, it would be, who's benefiting? If it involves time, is it time that we're billing? Is it time we're using on internal development, marketing? Who's paying for that time? Either the client's paying for that time or the business is paying for that time. And how do we justify, if the client's not paying for it, how do you justify spending time internally What value does it bring to the business? In the same way you look at the time you sell your client, you're adding value to the client's business. And you need to take the same approach with where you spend your time internally. How do you value that time? Is it a good use of my time? What's the benefit of me doing X? What value does it bring your business? And these are things that you'll always be asking yourself, but when you're looking at a report of how much time you spend doing something, you really start to kind of understand that's a lot of time. Was it a good use of my time? Was it spent in the right place? Was it profitable? And we kind of get into test and measure, and you can see the example on screen is the red minus is where too much time has been applied to the project. So it's about, whoa, why was that? So if you get to a project and go, why did I spend more time than I quoted? There'll be reasons, and you need to be honest with those reasons, because if you're not honest as to why it's occurred, it'll happen again, and more likely not just happen again, but get worse because you're not being honest about, we spent too much time doing this or a mistake occurred. But really look and be honest about where you're spending your time. And then we kind of get on to, as a result of what I've learned, where do I spend my time better? And this is the forever looking forwards, because you can't change what's happened. It's done. All we can do is learn from what we've reported on and go, that was a successful project, celebrate, great news. This wasn't, why not? What didn't go well? Why didn't it go well? And what do we do better or differently as a result of knowing that? And that's things that we need to keep asking ourselves to keep us focused on the future and not hold us back in the past, beating ourselves up because something didn't go so well. Okay, all that kind of makes sense. Any questions? Fantastic.
I think
so. I wanted to wrap that up, what we've just been through, into something very succinct, very easy to kind of remember, and I put it into this. So the first job is to clarify what it is you're doing, where you're spending your time. What am I about to do? Why am I doing it? Understand it, because if you can't understand it, then if you're explaining it to someone else, they're not going to understand it. And if you don't really understand it yourself, you're probably going to spend a lot of time doing something that is not going to be profitable. Prioritize it and plan it. That becomes your diary. We've talked about how we get the best out of our time in a day. We've talked about how we kind of work out what's urgent, important, not urgent, important. So prioritize it and then plan it in the diary. Plan it in the most efficient way that works for you, works for the business, works for your client. Make the time for it. If you put it in your diary, do it, or move it to a day when you are going to do it. Don't fill your diary with things that just are not going to get done because you're going to have a mess to clean up the next day, and that gets worse as you don't do the things that you committed to doing. Action it. More importantly, review it. If you don't review what you've been doing, you'll never know what you can do better to make it and improve it. And then we're back round to the next, clarify it, and we start the whole loop again. So I kind of put it together because I wanted to make all of the previous slides into one that you could take away and go, great, that makes a lot of sense. I can use that. I can make things better in my business. Any questions on that section? No, we all good? Okay, over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Paul. Some really simple ideas. You know, not stuff is complex. That's the stuff I love about business. That actually, the things we're talking about are not complex. What you've basically got there is a daily to-do list. Now, I would recommend that you in the first instance, you write that longhand and then you start crossing that off. But as you write what you've got to do, put a number next to it, which one you're going to do first, and do that most important thing first. Realistically, for a lot of us, I would encourage you to identify the one thing that you have to do in your day and make sure you get it done. Because other things do come along, and that's a real discipline. As you go into your day, identify the one drop dead thing that you've got to get done that day, that big rock, and do that first, and then you know you've won. And then you're on to the next thing and the next thing, but make sure you get the first thing done, because if you don't get that one thing done, you're probably not going to last too long. It will come around to get you.
Did all that make sense? I know it was a bit of a rush through, but did it all kind of very clear? Any questions? Because you all look dazed. It's like, wasn't that bad, was it?
It was great, Paul. I mean, the visual metaphor of those rocks in that glass, that's what you've always got to, like the guy that coaches me says all the time, Alex, you should have a virtual CEO tapping you on your shoulder saying, should you be doing that? And I think, it's like having kids. What are you doing at the moment? Are you doing what you should be doing? And that's the question that you should be asking yourself. What's your priority? What's the rock? What have we got to do today? Now, the vast improvement on that is thinking about that in advance, not just your day, but your week and your month. Because if you can get those things in place, then it will sort out your day. If you work out what you've got to do for this year, then you can break down, okay, what have I do that this month? And then you break that down to, okay, what am I doing this week? That's how you'll really start making progress in your life, because you'll start getting those big things done that you really want to get done, rather than spending your time on the crap that everyone else gives you to do. And I think that the fact is that if you don't know what you want to do, then someone else will end up telling you what they want you to do. And your life is honestly too precious to be told what to do. Yes. You've got a vision. That vision is from God. It's absolutely dependent on you to make sure that you get that thing done, and only you can get done what God has told you to do. And if you don't do it, it won't get done. So this is the kind of, this is what we're talking about, is basically getting it done. And so choose what is the one thing, will the one thing, and get that thing done. And everything else is kind of on for that. I think it's absolutely brilliant, Paul. We all need to manage our time so much better.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So in terms of, we've talked about time, which I believe is the most important resource that any of us have. The second most important thing, which is basically just time, is money. Now, can everyone see my screen? So it should say cash flow. Cool. Hold on. I can't see you when I'm doing this. Hold on. Yeah, people see my screen? Cool. Okay, excellent. So a few different sayings about cash flow. First, I've already used cash is king. So it doesn't matter what your turnover is. Turnover is vanity. Profit, they say, is sanity, but cash is reality. And honestly, cash is one of the most difficult things to build in your life and in your business. And it's like time. You've got to start thinking it. You've got to start planning it. Paul said this the last time we met. Cash flow is the oxygen to your business. If you don't have cash in your business, you will die. And in the beginning times, you've got to prioritize cash. And the next thing which someone said to me is like, money is meant to flow through you. That's why they call it currency. in businesses, sometimes you'll be dealing with vast amounts of money, much more money than you actually have, but you've got to make sure that that is flowing. That's the idea about cash flow. You've got to have cash, and it's got to be flowing. Those are the really simple principles that we're talking about. Next thing is, now I wanted to give a huge shout out to Jasmine here, because she put on the Momentum Mighty Networks this amazing spreadsheet, which is basically all you ever need really when you're planning your cash flow. So I'm using Jasmine's cash flow forecast. It's a simple spreadsheet, and I'm just going to talk you through how you use it. If you're running your business, I mean, when I started Communion, my dad worked with an insolvency accountant, and I said, because I didn't have the foggiest idea, Eddie, what do I need to know? And he basically drew me this chart out on a piece of paper. And honestly, it's the one spreadsheet that I look at more than anything else in my business. And that's the thing about cash flow. This will never go away. Doesn't matter who you are in your business. If you're running a business, this is the most important document in your business. So let's just have a look at it. Now, what it is there's like all charts, there's things down here, and they start from the top. But we're not going to quite start from the top. We're going to start kind of halfway down, and that's called your expenditure. Now we start here because these things are often easier to identify. It's often easier where you're going to spend your money than when that money is going to come from. So let's start with the easy things. And then along the top, we have different months. Now the place we start on this is on month 1. It doesn't really matter where you start, you just start anywhere. And if you're planning your cash flow, you just start at the beginning, which is month 1. And then I love this, Jasmine. Put the most important the most important item of expenditure in first. Your accountant and your bookkeeper, amazing. Get them paid. So put the money in, and you can just list what you know your costs are going to be. Now, it's important to say that when you're starting off, you just don't know, but that doesn't stop you having a guess. And if you're going to guess, just be on the slight conservative side. Don't be massively conservative because the sums won't add up. But if you don't know and you think something's going to be, 45 quid, just put 50 quid in. If you think it's going to be 90 quid, put 100 quid in, just so that you've got a little, just use round figures. So I've just banged some figures in this. So these are kind of ideas of monthly costs that you might run into. Accountants, marketing, insurance, some kind of mileage, some kind of office costs, other costs, phones, some kind of professional fees like Momentum. And then the most important thing that I put down here is your cost, the cost that you want to take out of the business month by month by month. Honestly, I put that top. You start with what you want to pay yourself, and then everyone else comes after you. There's a great book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we'll come on to it. But, they say pay yourself first. Everyone else can wait. And I think there's some sense in that. Because if you don't get paid, no one else is going to get paid either. And the great thing about that is, like our time, hey, look, we get Jasmine's spreadsheet will magically add those things up. Now, I remember I'm old enough to remember when spreadsheets came out. And before that, you had to do it yourself. And that was bloody hard work. So this is like God's gift to everyone's running a business. You put these figures in and it magically adds up for you. Right. Now, the second thing is, then this is about the future. This isn't, we're not looking at just 1 month here. We're basically going to play a game. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. The one way is to start a business and not do this and then get to the end of the year and see how you're doing. And I really don't advise that. The second way is to spend 5 minutes putting this together and seeing where you're going to be in 12 months' time. So the way that you do that is basically, most costs are kind of constant. So you basically just copy your first column and you paste that into your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth. And you keep on going until you get to the end of the year. Now, what the next really, really clever thing about Jasmine's cash flow forecast is, you can see that there's a monthly expenditure here, at basically £1,500. And then there's this thing called gross profit or gross loss. And if it's in brackets, it means that it's a loss, just for a word to the wise. And at the moment, we are losing everything that we're spending because we've got no money coming in. And then there's this next row here, which is your cumulative total. So the great thing is that after literally sort of 3 minutes work, we can see that it's really probably going to cost us the best part of 20K to run our business for 1 year. And so suddenly that gives us a target. And the biggest cost in there should well be the amount of money that you're going to take away from that business. Because honestly, one of the tests I've got is, if you can go and work for someone else who will pay you more money than you can earn in your business, go and do that. Because honestly, unless you are earning money in your business or got a plan to earn money, it's just too much hard work and strife. So, you know, one of the biggest lessons I learned in business is watching my dad, who struggled in business for a long time and lost, you know, a fair amount of money at the end of the day. And I knew that at the end of the month, I had the mortgage to pay. And therefore, I had an absolute target. And if I didn't earn the amount of money, we didn't pay the mortgage and we didn't eat. And honestly, that starts to give some real emphasis to earning that money. And never, ever, ever lose that. Now, there'll be some times when you can't always earn that money. And that's kind of not exactly all right. But, you know, you've got to make sure that you can earn that money sometime, because nature is brutally honest. And if you don't do it, you know, it's not going to end well. So the first thing I'm wanting to say about this is, let's look at this. Let's put down the costs that we are reasonably expected to incur, and let's figure out what the annual total is going to be. Right. That's the depressing note. Now, the fun bit is actually trying to figure out how we're going to earn that money. Now, basically what I've got going on here is that, I mean, Kez, you started talking about this a little bit earlier, is that you can do various things. So really what you want to prioritize is the thing that's going to earn you most money for the least amount of time. Yeah. But it's, you know, I'm always amazed with what we do is that, you know, okay, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. And amazingly, you know, if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. When you're thinking about, so what you're thinking about here is, what am I going to sell? Who am I going to get this money from? Who are my clients? What are my products? And then you just say, okay, well, I can do, you know, I can do that for them. I can do this for them. I can do that for them. Or, you know, I can do 3 of those and that will give me, and that, you know, again, we don't know this, but this isn't reality. This is a budget. This is an idea. It's just an idea written. It's not an idea written in beautiful calligraphy. It's an idea written down in a spreadsheet. So start to think how you can earn the money that you need each month, and then write those things in. And then do exactly the same thing and put them in month by month by month. Now, what I really loved about, again, another really amazing thing about Jasmine's spreadsheet is that if you made money down in here in the 1 month, it brought it up and gave you it for the next month. So suddenly, if you make yourself £300 or £600, it carries it forward. And therefore you start to get an idea, okay, yeah, look, I've got a carry forward here. So suddenly we're in the other way. We're not incurring debt, we're incurring profit. But just think, okay, you just got to think about where am I getting my money from month by month and month, and put those things down there. That's all you got to do. And what you look to is kind of saying, fine, what's the end game here? What we're asking you to do is look forward one whole year and say, okay, reasonably, I know what my costs are going to be. Do I have a vision of how I'm going to earn that money? And this is just a simple spreadsheet. And this is going to be one of your actions for this month, is that some people might be running these things and other people won't. If you're planning a business, this is where you start to think about it, and just talk to other people in your line of work or something similar, or, just simple things, and put those things down, and then put down how you think you're going to earn this. Now, there's a really important principle above this, which is this line should always be more money. There should be more money up here than there is down there. And really, what I find is the costs are always more than what you generally anticipate. And sometimes, a lot of the time, it's harder to get the money in. So that's why I would say to you, you've got to have a real vision for this top line. And I would say that this top line has got to be in your mind between 20 to 30 to 40% more than the bottom line. Because if you can get this top line with a good measure of excess compared to the bottom line, you stand a chance of breaking even. And things aren't going to go bang to plan. So try and be a little bit cautious with your costs, and try and figure out all the time how you can earn more money, because those are the basic rules of business, that you've got to figure out all the time how you can earn more money and how you can reduce your costs. Right, just going to come out of that so I can see you all. Did that make any sense at all?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very clear. Good foundation stuff.
It's that spreadsheet. This is effectively a game. Yeah. Don't try and think about it too much, but just play with it, and get familiar with the spreadsheet, and just say, what if? What are my likely costs, and how could I earn that kind of money? Because once you get familiar with that spreadsheet, honestly, 3 weeks ago, I had my cash flow for the year. I had to pull it out. I had to completely, the top line of that got decimated. And then I had to think very, very seriously about my bottom line. But the great thing is about those spreadsheets is I didn't have to wait for it. I could do that exercise within an hour and go, well, this is my first option. This is my second option. This is my third option. And the spreadsheet will sort it out for you, because you've got to make those things balance. And it's one of the constant things that if you're going to run a business, Richard Branson's book, Losing My Virginity, it's a brilliant read, because what it basically says was he was always having to get more money. He never had enough money for what he was doing. It was his constant battle. And it will be your constant battle in business about how to earn more and more and more money. And as you try and earn more money, it costs you. So you've got to get familiar with that thing. But it's a really fantastic spreadsheet. It's the most fundamental system of your business. You need to have a look at it, because there's tremendous power into it, in that one thing. And I would say, as I said at the beginning, business is they've got to be built on firm foundations, and a good grasp of your cash flow is a huge foundation in your business. Yeah. Right. Okay. Pushing on. So that's our first type of costs. Now, the second kind of cost that we've been talking to people about is project costing. Now, when you're taking on a job, when you're quoting for a job, no one, well, very few people are going to say those immortal words, Alex, whatever it costs, it's fine. Whatever it costs, don't worry, I'm good for it. Most people, in order for me to sell to them, will ask the question, how much is it going to cost? And I've then got to be ready with an answer. And that's not always an easy cut. That's not always easy to know on the spot. So again, we're going to kind of practice that. Now, different businesses are made of different things. Now, my business is what I'm mostly doing is selling time, and therefore I've got to. That's what I'm trying to work out all the time: is how much time is it going to take me or other people to do what I need to do. But there are also some things in that business that, you know, I've got to spend some time on here, and then there's some other costs that you've got to be aware of, Mr. Customer, that you're going to need to add in, and therefore I would advise you that you're going to need to spend this amount of money. So this is basically what you've got to kind of do. So for your product, you've got to think, okay, how many things do I need to buy? And what are they going to cost me? And how much time is it going to cost me to do that job? So as you can see, this is a very, very simple spreadsheet. I can send it to you. It's so simple though, you can build it yourself. I've got thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, and time. So the things are my materials or the things I've got to buy, and then I've got my time to do it. Then I've got a quantity column, then I've got a cost column, and then I've got a profit column. And then I've got a quote. So this is how much it's going to cost me. So for this particular product, I've got one of thing 1, and that costs me £10, but I'm going to sell that for £12. Then I'm going to need two of the second things I need to use. They cost me 20 quid each, but they're more valuable to my client, so I'm going to sell them at a higher profit. And then I need 3 of these other things at 30 quid. And I've you know, those I can really make a good profit on, and that starts to give me some money here. But the biggest element of the cost here is your own personal time. And that's because when we go back to our cash flow, if we look at all of our costs here, the biggest likely cost that you're going to have is your own time. And that's what we've got to recover through selling our stuff. So very well to have a look at these things and say, oh, I can sell that 20%, 50%. I can even double that value. The thing about it is that if that thing that you buy for £10 and you sell it for £12, you're only really making 2 quid. It's not going to come anywhere close to making this 1,000 quid that you're going to need to pay yourself. So somewhere along that line, this 1,000 quid has got to be paid for, and you've got to factor that into every job you do. So basically, you've got to take the amount of available hours that you have over your week and divide them by the amount of money that you've got to earn, and that gives you this most important cost, and it will probably be the biggest cost of your quote. And then you've got to say, okay, actually, in order to eat, survive, it's going to cost me, I've got to charge my time out at 50 quid an hour, and it's going to take me a day of my time to put this thing together, and that's my 442 quid. And then we have an idea of, okay, that's what I've got to sell this thing for. That's the cost of this particular product. This particular product has things in it and it has time in it. Taken as a whole, if you want to buy my services, that's what I've got to sell it at. And if I don't sell it at that, I can't make the business work, because that's what it is. So that's just a very, very simple costing sheet. Now, the thing about it is that once you've done that job, you can then go back and do the measure. So one of the most important ideas that I've learned in business is the idea called test and measure. Do we know that this thing is going to work? I don't know. Why don't we test it and see if it actually does? And the thing that you've got to do with is, for everything that you sell, as soon as you close that thing off, what you should be doing is going back to that saying, oh, actually, isn't that interesting? I needed actually 2 of those things. So it wasn't £12, it was 24 quid. But I only needed 2 of these. I only needed 1 of these things. And I thought I was going to earn 60 quid from that. I actually only earned 30. And I actually needed 3 of these things here. And that cost an awful lot more than I was expecting. And oh hell, it actually cost me, it actually took me 9.5 hours. And therefore it costs this amount of money. Now, you may or may not be in an opportunity to be able to reclaim that money from your client. In my experience, generally you can't. You've offered to do something for a certain cost, and you have to then fulfill that thing. Now, in the beginning, when you're starting off, it sounds bad, but it's not going to kill you if you have to work an extra couple of hours in order to deliver something. But what you should do from that is, the next time you go and sell that product, you should price your time and your product better. We can't do anything about the past, but we can learn from it. And it's one of the most powerful things that you will ever do. And one of the ideas that I like is a simple word called rematch. So the first time round, I lost. But hey, I can't do anything about that. But next time, I've got this time to play this game again. Rematch. I know exactly what I've got to do this time. I know exactly how this project's going to work, how this project's going to run. I'm going to need 2 of these, 1 of those, 4 of those, and it's going to take me 9.5 hours. Bang. Now you need to set it, and I know exactly how much it's going to cost me. Now that may not work exactly out, but the great thing about it is that actually you may actually the second time do it faster than you did it the first time, but you'll also know why it's worth doing it. But unless you do the relatively simple thing, which is just going back and figuring out what it actually cost you, you won't know. And this is the opportunity that this gives you. So test and measure. Do you know what margin you're making? And typically that I've found, when you first go into it, I tend to be out, and I tend to be, it tends to be a regular thing that I'm about 20% out. The first time I do something, I'm like, it won't, I can do that. It will cost me that. I do the whole thing, and I tend to be about 20% out. And that means that basically I've got to charge it 40% higher, or I've got how I can do it 40% cheaper. And both of those questions are really important. Okay, now your time is more important than your money. So going back to that little exercise, your time is usually the biggest thing that you've got. And you'll, within your business, the biggest cost to your business will basically be you. And the only way that you can pay yourself is that if you charge yourself out enough. And as my coach said to me, Alex, if you don't value the service you do, if you don't value your own time, no one else is going to do it either. So the first exercise to do is to figure out, from our cash flow thing, is, hold on, I've got to earn. And this is exactly kind of where I started off. I'm sure it's where Paul started off. And I've been in business. At the end of this month, I've got to earn this amount of money. The only place that is going to come from is these revenue streams, these customers, these people. And therefore, when they buy that stuff, we've got to make sure that once they've bought it and we've done all that work, it is actually making money. And the first few times of this, you may get it right, or you may get it wrong. Probably you'll get it, hopefully you'll get it about right. But as you go forward, if you take the time to figure out, okay, it took me this amount of time, not that amount of time, and it cost me that amount of money, not this amount of money, then over time, you'll get better at it. And that's when you'll see money start coming into your business. Now, just to kind of say this in the most basic way, and this really comes back to an important point I said at the beginning, is that, that actually our time is strictly limited. Looking at my life at the moment, I'm 42, or am I 43? 43. That means that maybe I've got 40 years on this life. That means that I've only really got less than 2,100 weeks. That's not an awful lot of time. Your time is pretty limited. And therefore, you've got to really take it seriously. And you've got to really, really convince yourself that your time is worth it. And you've got to figure out why it is worth it. Because that's what business is basically saying, okay, I'm going to take this much time over it, and people are going to pay me for that time, one way, shape, form, or another. This is just to say that, they kind of say there's about $36.8 trillion in the world. That there's a lot of money out there. Yeah. The world is actually, even at the moment, not short of money. What do we do when we need more money? We just invent some. But what we can't do is invent any more time for our life. There's a parable about it in the Bible. So, take your own time really, really seriously in your business. And as Paul said earlier on, prioritize the most important things in your life. Don't then get down to the things you have to do. And then, if you like distraction, do it in your spare time, but make sure that's after you've paid yourself. Right. That kind of brings us to the end of our learnings for today. Paul, would you like to have a go at recapping?
Absolutely. Do you want to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, okay.
Rather than me take control, be easier. So we set out at the beginning to kind of cover subjects each workshop. Well, we've already missed one workshop, but you can see by the ticks, we're not covering things in quite the order that we planned. Now, some of that is because based on the coaching sessions, we've covered the more pressing topics, the topics that are kind of going, we're stuck with that, or we don't understand that, or you can help us with that. So we've kind of covered them, but what we'll find through the whole of this year, we will loop back over some of those topics time and time again, because they're all important foundations of not just building a successful business, but maintaining a successful business and growing a successful business. And so we'll kind of, each month, we may cover something again in a slightly different way. And I kind of, I've learned to, when I attend a seminar or a teaching session, what I'll ask myself is, I may have heard it before, I may have heard it taught differently, but I always say, what do I learn or relearn in a different way? Because the way it's delivered can kind of remind you and just jog a memory and help you kind of focus back on what's important at that time of the life of your business. Do you want to pop on to the next slide,
Yep.
Alex? So, what are we asking you to do this month? I mean, as Alex said at the beginning, we're not just asking you to do these things because you haven't got enough time. We're asking you because they're going to help you set strong foundations of your business. And if you've already got a business, they will start to help strengthen by what you're relearning topic-wise. So the NEATs, you've all been through the NEATs, or most of you have, and some of you are currently going through it. And actually that's a exercise that you ought to revisit on a regular basis, because as you get new clients, new customers, you want to continually have a reminder prompting you to get feedback during and after the project. But what we want to do is what's in it for your customers, the NEATs, what's in it for your customers, what value are you providing your customers? And that's kind of what we want to focus on. Now, we've already started on some of the coaching sessions, focusing on from a marketing message. It's not what you say about what you do, it's about what others say about what you do that's far more powerful. And that's what we want to extract, because it's not just internal information, but it's information that you're going to use in marketing, in conversations, because remember, it's not what you say, it's what others say. And what we want to extract is what's in it for your customers, what's the benefit, and that will come from what your customers, your clients are already telling you. So we want to kind of extract that in more detail. The second is, you all stated 3 objectives when you kind of applied for Momentum. And what we want you to do is revisit those and ask yourself an honest question. Are they still relevant? Have you changed direction? Have you tweaked what you're doing slightly? And therefore, you need to revisit the objectives you set. And are they still relevant? If they're still relevant, where am I with those objectives? And what are my next steps with dates, with timeline of when I'm going to deliver on that objective? And that's a case of being honest with yourself when you review those and go, I haven't done anything on that. It's no good kidding yourself, because you'll just take a lot longer to get where you're going. So honesty with yourself is the first key. 3, timekeeping. Where do you spend your time? If you've got a timekeeping system, great. If you haven't, either write it down, keep a note, or have a little Excel spreadsheet. But if you start logging where you spend your time, and then review it at the end of a day, at the end of a week, at the end of the month, I think the most powerful thing I've learned is not telling someone how to do something, but showing them where to find the information, so you can then make your own informed decisions, because then it's more powerful, because you find it yourself. And for me, when I look at my week and work out whether was my week profitable, were the days in that week profitable, could I have spent my time better? But I can only do that because I'm measuring where I'm spending my time. So that's an exercise we really want you to do, because I think it will reveal a lot about your business and how you spend your time. The 4th, cash flow. And that's going back to what Alex took you through on the cash flow statement, is what does your month, quarter, and year look like? It's going to be a cash flow forecast, because get out, it's going to be a finger in the air, but let's work with something and tweak it. I mean, the way I look at it, next week, I pretty much know. The end of the month, I pretty much know. 2 months out, it gets a little bit washy. 3 months, 4 months, the further you go out, it gets a little bit kind of finger in the air stuff, but it's something to work with, and you'll review it. Some daily, weekly, monthly, you'll review it and look at where your money's coming from and where it is going. So what I'd say is if you haven't got anything already, or you want to have a look at what Jasmine put together, then I think it was posted on the Momentum group, Alex?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, brilliant. So, or approach Jasmine directly and ask for a copy. Job costing. We've already started with some of you an exercise to review what jobs, what projects you've done, so you can learn kind of how much time did I spend, how much were the costs, how much money did I make? Is that where I want to be? And if it's not where you want to be, what did I learn from that? And what do I do differently next time to get a better result? And again, it's the same with the time. When you start looking at jobs you've already done and you go, that was a really successful job. And then you look at it in the light of honesty. This is how much time I really spent. These are my real costs. You get to go, okay, what do I do differently to bring a different result? And that's looking back to learn so you can move forward into the future in a better place. Watch a YouTube. Alex, can you talk through, because I'm not
so
sure that
what I'm aware of is part of running a business is starting to think like a business person, and so what I'm always going to be trying to give to you is opportunities to learn from business people. I think that we know that God is in charge and all of that kind of stuff, but at the same time, if you're going to be running a business, lives are in your hands, and you need to get good at what you're doing. And therefore, just like if you're a nurse nursing on the COVID wards, you better know how to nurse. And that's we can pray about that stuff, but if you haven't done your 3 years training, you're not going to be that much good. However, if you're running a business, there are skills that you're going to need to learn. Now, this YouTube clip is it's by one of my favorite guys in the world. He's now dead, Jim Rohn. He wrote a really fantastic book, lots of them. He was also a strong Christian, but it was talking about what skills he learned in to do. And they're interesting skills. They're not stuff that you would automatically think of, but they are the key skills that are really, really important. So it's only I think 12 minutes long. Have a listen to it. I think it's slightly from a different age. It's it's sort of late. It's sort of early 90s, but and part of it is you have to. People mention this when they come into freedom, is that we all speak slightly differently, and you have to learn how to speak. You have to learn that language, and you have to kind of learn the language of business, and not automatically go, "Wow, he's just American, so he doesn't really know anything." So have a listen to this. I think you'll find it really useful. It's not meant to be taxing. It's meant to be something you can do over a cup of coffee, and enjoy and learn something. We've got to be learning stuff all the time in terms of business stuff.
Thank you, Alex. Last, it's a very, very, very short book, Eat That Frog. And it's a book, again, I read several years ago, but there's a lot of things that I do now as a result of reading that book. And basically the book's about, we often put off the things that are important, but more complex and difficult to do, but we don't want to do them. So we put them off and leave them, or often don't do them. And, certainly I know what that's like, but how do you spend your time more effectively? And the book is basically talking about if the worst thing you do is eat a live frog, then the day you celebrate that you've got through a difficult time, but also if it's the worst thing, then the day's only going to get better, and you get something off your to-do list that's important and needed doing, and takes you either solves a problem or takes you a step further to your goal. So please have a read of that. So it's a very short book, but I think you'll take some really good learning points out of it that will help you moving forwards. And not quite the final slide, but the thing I've learned with this kind of stuff is knowing is not enough. We know we need to apply it, and we're willing to apply it, but we don't do it, and we need to do it. It's the action we take that will take us to where we're going on the steps we're going to, rather than we sitting. I mean, and I've done it, and we've all been there. We've sat in some great kind of seminars, read some great books. We've gone, great, I'm going to put that into action, and we're willing to do it, but we don't do it. We find something else that kind of sidetracks us, takes us off the goal. So the reason that slide's there is I'd really encourage everyone to take the action, find the time, plan it, take the action to help you take the next steps towards your business growth, your business development, to success that you have the vision, that God has given you the vision to create.
That's great.
Over to you.
Yeah, one saying that I heard is immediacy of action is the secret of success, and that sort of goes back to eat the frog. You know, if you can do, you know, if there's one thing you've got to do and you get up and do it in the morning, it's done. And if that's the most important thing you've got to get done, and then you're well on the way to succeeding for the rest of your day. If, you know, it's like that call, isn't it? Oh, I haven't made that call. Oh, I'll make it when I get into work. Oh, something comes along. Oh, I'll make it after lunch. Oh, something else came along. Oh, okay, fine. It's 5:20. I'm going to make that call now. Make the call. What? They're not there? Why are they there? And then it's hanging over you for the rest of your night. And then you've got to get up and you've got to do it the next morning. I mean, it's like, as Richard Branson said, is screw it, just do it. Just get up, make the call, and the rest of your day is an absolute victory because you sorted it. You've done the most annoying thing. So that really comes back to what we're talking about, is do it. Just do it. Don't put it off. Plan it by all means, as long as you're going to be convinced that you're going to do it when you say you're going to do it, but do it. A big shout out here for Chanel. Chanel, honestly, you know, the actions that we've put out to you, I've been amazed. You know, the next day, boom, there you go, I've done it. As we give you something else to do, bang, next day you've done it. I've never seen anyone like you, Chanel. It's absolutely fantastic. Well done, you. Right, date for next workshop. We've moved things around, Paul, haven't we?
We have, yeah. Do you want to talk through it?
No, you did it.
I'll talk through it. So we kind of missed the 23rd of March workshop, and it took us a bit of time to get these sessions together, how we're going to do it, how we're going to deliver it. So what we've done, we've shuffled the end around to take the graduation into November, but still do the 10 workshops, because what we're pretty confident there is a lot of information, and through the coaching session we'll revisit the information, and what we don't want to do is cut that short. So we brought the graduation into the same month of the last workshop. And will those be published, Alex? Yeah, we'll publish those. Yeah.